दोस्तों आपको 3000 वर्ड्स की डिक्टेशन प्रोवाइड करने वाला हूं। बहुत ही स्पेशल डिक्टेशन है। आपने टाइटल से ही समझ लिया होगा कि 100 WPM ये स्पीड होने वाली है और वर्ड्स होंगे 3000। वैसे तो मैं वीडियो के लास्ट में ही चीज़ कहता हूं, बट आज पहले से कह रहा हूं कि वीडियो को लाइक ज़रूर कीजिएगा। ये वीडियो पे बहुत मेहनत लगी है और बस क्या बताऊँ, आधे घंटे कंटिन्यू डिक्टेशन रिकॉर्ड करने वाला हूँ। तो मुझे पता है बहुत मेहनत है और मैटर को अच्छे से तैयार किया गया है आप लोगों के लिए। तो वीडियो को लाइक ज़रूर कीजिएगा, शेयर बिल्कुल आपने करना ही करना है, तभी आपके लिए इस तरीके के मैटर्स आगे लेके आऊँगा, अगर इस पर रिस्पॉन्स अच्छा आया तभी। ठीक है दोस्तों, तो आपको डिक्टेशन दे रहा हूँ मैं 100 WPM पर 3000 वर्ड्स की। बी रेडी फॉर इट।
I am happy to be here at the 100th Annual Conference of the Indian Economic Association. This professional body of Indian economists was founded way back in 1917. It has grown to become one of the largest academic communities in our country, with a membership of about 7,000 distinguished individuals and institutions. I congratulate the Indian Economic Association and indeed all of you for reaching this significant milestone. Your pursuit of excellence and study of policy choices has enriched our scholarship and our public discourse. Several members of the association have served in various policy-making bodies, including the Finance Commission, the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, and till recently the Planning Commission. And right from 1917, the association's journal, the Indian Economic Journal, has published research papers that are contemporary and relevant. The annual conference is an important event that brings together members of the association. In keeping with the centenary commemoration, this year's theme is Ambitious Indian Economic Development, Experience since Independence. I understand that a whole range of topics, from fiscal policy to external trade and from agriculture to socio-economic inequalities, will be discussed. I am also glad to learn that prominent economists from countries as far apart as the United States, Switzerland, and Malaysia are participating. Of course, Professor Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh is the guest of honor today. His work in development economics has made him the pride of the entire subcontinent. I warmly welcome him and all other international delegates. Economics has evolved enormously as an academic discipline in the past 100 years. This is a subject that combines history and geography, philosophy and ethics, and increasingly mathematics. Economics is like a grand river that has place for diverse currents ranging from sociology to statistics. But at its core is and must always be human welfare. This is what makes the Indian development experience such an important subject. India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Without growth, there can be no development and little scope for redistribution. And yet, while growth is necessary, it is not sufficient. To tackle the inequalities in our society, to overcome the social and economic inequalities between different sections and even different regions, requires imaginative policy making. Significant numbers of our fellow citizens still live in poverty or very close to poverty. They have insufficient access to healthcare, education, housing, and civic amenities. This is particularly true for traditionally weaker sections of society, such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, segments of other backward classes, and of course, women. Addressing these issues is necessary in order to achieve the dreams of a new India by 2022, when our country commemorates the 75th anniversary of independence. We also have to treat investment in health and education as investment in human capital, a critical building block for our economy. Many of the issues I have mentioned are actually in the state list of the Indian Constitution. Addressing them at the local and state level with an appropriate policy mechanism and rollout will drive forward the Indian development experience. In an era of cooperative federalism, and particularly after the implementation of the report of the 14th Finance Commission, which has transferred more funds to the states, there is a lot of responsibility and hope that rests with our various states. Devolution of funds needs to be complemented by evolution of ideas. That is how states will benefit, and ultimately India's social, developmental and macroeconomic needs will be met. As such, alongside the union government, I would urge our community of economists to work more and more with our state governments and offer them counsel and recommendations that are specific to their regions and demographic profiles. In this context, I must congratulate the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Mr. Naidu, for making his state a leader in economic thinking and initiatives, and for skillfully converting policy prescriptions into projects on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, human society is at a turning point. Many of the realities the world has lived with for the past several decades, especially since the end of World War II, are giving way. The discipline of economics has not been left untouched by these changes. We face a situation where many societies that had so far advocated the cause of a liberal trading order are turning protectionist. The onus is on emerging economies such as India to speak up for an interconnected world where fair and growing trade helps the largest number of people. There are also domestic issues that must concern us. The era of formal jobs is gradually yielding to one of employment opportunities and even self-employment opportunities in specialized manufacturing, in the services sector and in the digital economy. Whether we call it the informal economy or the gig economy, as is the popular term now, whether we apply the norms of microcredit or social entrepreneurship, this sector will only expand. We have to understand it and devise policies that are in tune with it. And we need to design social security measures and safety nets that protect its workers. I am pleased to note that the Government of India has recognized these gaps. Initiatives such as Startup India, Stand Up India and Mudra, and the Jan Dhan Yojana, which has brought hundreds of millions into the banking system, are aimed at filling gaps that have remained in our developmental model despite the progress since independence. All these are challenges and issues for our economists to think over and to analyze and to provide a roadmap for. I am sure these subjects and many others will form part of this conference over the next few days. And as the Indian Economic Association enters its second century, I am confident that the association and its members will remain as connected to our nation's developmental process and to the welfare of our people as they have been for the past 100 years. I wish all of you the very best for the rest. Members of Parliament, I welcome you here today as members of the first Parliament of the Republic of India elected under our Constitution. We have now given full effect to the provisions of the Constitution relating to the composition of the legislatures and the headship of the state, and thus completed one stage of our journey. Even as we complete that stage, we start on another. There is no resting place for a nation or a people on their onward march. You, members of Parliament, newly elected by over 170 million of our people, are the pilgrims who have to march forward in their company. On you rests a unique privilege and a heavy responsibility. As I speak to you on this historic occasion, I have a feeling of the high destiny of our ancient land and the vast numbers of men and women who live in it. Destiny beckons to us, and it is for us to respond to its call. That call is for the service of this great land of India, which has passed through good fortune and ill fortune alike since its story began many thousands of years ago at the dawn of history. During these many years, greatness has come to our land and tragedy has also been our fate. Now that we stand on the threshold of another phase of India's long story, we have to determine afresh how best to serve here. You and I have taken the oath of service to this country of ours. May we be true to that pledge and dedicate our highest endeavor to its fulfillment. India has, after a long period of subjection, gained her freedom and independence. That freedom has to be maintained, defended, and enlarged at all cost, for it is on the basis of that freedom alone that any structure of progress can be built. But freedom by itself is not enough. It must also bring a measure of happiness to our people and a lessening of the burdens they suffer from. It has, therefore, become of vital importance for us to labor for the rapid economic advancement of our people and to endeavor to realize the noble ideals of equality and social and economic justice which have been laid down in our Constitution. India has represented throughout her history certain other urges of the human spirit that has perhaps been the distinguishing mark of India, and even in recent years we saw a noble example of that ancient spirit and urge of India in the form of Mahatma Gandhi, who led us to freedom. To him, political freedom was a vital step, but only a step to the larger freedom of the human spirit. We taught us the way of peace and non-violence, but not the peace of the grave or the non-violence of the timid. And he taught us, in line with the teachings of India's ancient sages and great men, that it is not through hatred and violence that great ends are achieved, that right ends must be pursued and achieved only through right methods. That is a basic lesson not only for us of India, but, if I may venture to say so, for people throughout the world. I earnestly trust that in the great tasks that face us, you will remember this ancient and ever new message of India and will work in a spirit of cooperative endeavor, placing the cause of the nation and of humanity above all lesser objectives. We have to build up the unity of India, the unity of a free people working for the realization of the high destiny that awaits them. We have, therefore, to put an end to all tendencies that weaken that unity and raise barriers between us, the barriers of communalism, provincialism, and casteism. Opinions will and must differ in regard to many political and economic matters, but if the good of India and her people is our dominant urge, and we realize, as we must, that this good can only be achieved through the methods of peaceful cooperation and democratic processes, then these differences can only add to the richness of our public life. It is with this outlook that I beg of you to face your problems here in this country and to face the world with friendly eyes and without fear. Fear today, fear of some approaching disaster, darkens the world. It is not through fear that the individual or the nation grows, but through fearlessness, as our ancient books told us. We have consistently pursued a policy of friendship with all the countries of the world, and that policy, though sometimes misunderstood, has been progressively appreciated by others and is yielding fruit. I trust that we shall firmly continue that policy, and I thus try to lessen somewhat the tension that exists in many parts of the world. My government has not sought to interfere with other countries, just as it does not invite any interference from others in our own country. We have tried the method of cooperation wherever possible, and our good offices are always available to further the cause of peace. We have no desire to thrust them on anyone. We realize, however, that in the world today, no country can remain isolated, that it is inevitable that international cooperation should grow till, at some distant date, all the nations of the world join together in a great cooperative endeavor for the advancement of humanity. For nearly a year now, efforts have been made in Korea to find some way to a truce which might lead to a peaceful settlement of the many problems that afflict the Far East of Asia. I have expressed the hope on several occasions that success will crown these efforts and peace be established again. It is the greatest of tragedies that, despite assertions of goodwill for the Korean people, this ancient country has been reduced by war, hunger, and pestilence to utter ruin. It has become a signal now. Mr. Chairman, sir, it is good to see everyone wearing mask in the August House as we recall in the early days of COVID pandemic when our members of All India Trinamool Congress were wearing masks, we were asked to remove it by the chair. Now, amongst all, I am standing here wearing a mask and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this. Sir, by now, because of several delayed, untimely, arrogant and whimsical steps of our government, people of this country are already having a question in their mind whether this government is really having any intention to take care of the health of the country and that of the healthcare institutions, because had it been so, then we would not have been seeing our India competing with America to be globally first so far as COVID cases are concerned. Sir, while speaking on this bill, I would also like to highlight upon certain important points. To me, this government only believes in centralization of power, which has been repeatedly proved by several bills and ordinances passed in this house, and again it has become evident by clause of this bill which it says that president of this proposed institution would be nominated by the government of India, and once again this government will try to run the show with few hand-picked people. My belief is this government hardly cares for the federal structure of the country, and this government is competent enough in depriving several states of their rights. It seems that this government believes that Gujarat is the whole country, and I thank God that it is not so, and that is why we are still surviving. Let me cite certain examples of deprivation of states. There is an Ayurveda college in Thiruvananthapuram which was founded in 1889. Sir, I will humbly request you to arrange for a visit, and I am sure after visiting that institution you will be extremely disheartened seeing the present scenario in our state of West Bengal, where Ayurveda was spreading like anything. In the 19th century, two institutions were formed in Kumartuli and Murshidabad, and there is another one of the oldest Ayurveda medical colleges, that is J.B. Roy State Ayurvedic Medical College, which was founded in 1916. It is also not at all in a very good shape. There is another National University of Bengal, Gaudiya Ayurveda College, which was a symbol of our freedom struggle. As a part of non-cooperation movement in 1921, it was founded with an Ayurveda wing. It is also in a very poor shape. as we know that Ayush also looks after homeopathy, but if you go to Calcutta to see the scenario of National Institute of Homeopathy, which is suited at Salt Lake, you will be extremely shocked and you will be extremely upset seeing the present condition. Sir, to which extent Bengal will be deprived? Bengal has so many Ayurveda medical colleges and many other institutions of national importance. Still, Bengal is facing a deprivation again and again. Bengal is not getting the fund for COVID. Bengal is not getting fund for Cyclone Amphan. In spite of the appeal made by the Chief Minister, we are not even getting the dues of 153,000 crores. So, it is obvious that our present government does not want to promote the existing students so that they can perform better, but surprisingly, out of their arrogance, they can ensure that the baby, which is still in the womb of a mother, will become Albert Einstein in future. This is very surprising. Sir, I believe and I think the House also believes that the Institute of National Importance can only be declared and designated based on their deeds and performance, and it cannot be designated just on the will of the government. I believe this government is absolutely in a state of inconsistency, contradiction and dichotomy, and it only generates, operates and propagates confusion. This bill completely contradicts one important para of the national education policy of the same government, as in the said para of national education policy, it is said that within 2030 there will be a complete mixopathy. No individual system of medicine will be existing anymore. Though Indian Medical Association has been fighting against this mixopathy because it is nothing but promotion of quackery. On the contrary, in this bill, our government is promoting a separate system of medicines, that is Ayurveda, which is absolutely self-contradictory. It is heard in the air that all these are because of a business tycoon close to our government probably sponsoring the same. Sir, considering the rapidly growing role of Ayush systems in addressing the public health challenges of India, conferring the status of national importance will boost the role and importance of Ayurveda in public health. The strengthening of Ayurveda will reduce government expenditure on health, as Ayurveda is cost effective because of its preventive and curative approaches. There is rising interest and demand for knowledge and services of Ayurveda all over the world. India is the country of origin of Ayurveda, and the world is looking up to India to showcase state-of-art institutions providing international level education and training. The elevation of the institute to the status of institution of national importance will provide it the autonomy to upgrade the standard of Ayurveda education. It will have the mandate to frame its own certification courses for deeper penetration of Ayush across masses. My apprehension is this: central to the arguments by the critics of Ayush is the lack of a scientific and evidence-based system in the alternative treatments offered. Medicines prescribed by Ayush for diabetes have recorded major side effects, including increasing patients' blood glucose to dangerously high levels. Sir, the Lancet study also cautions about the safety of Ayurvedic preparations as it points to several reports of heavy metal toxicity due to these drugs. I would like my apprehensions to be clarified by Honorable Minister and I support this bill. तो दोस्तों इसी के साथ ये डिक्टेशन फिनिश होती है और पूरी उम्मीद है आप लोगों ने इसको अच्छे से लिखा होगा और पूरा लिखा होगा। डिक्टेशन टफ है, कुछ पार्ट इसका काफ़ी टफ रहेगा आपको लिखने पे इस स्पीड पर, बट बिल्कुल ऐसा नहीं है कि लिखा ना जा सके। आपने देखा होगा डिक्टेशन अलग अलग तरीके की मिक्स करके दी हुई है, इसमें बनाई हुई इस तरीके से है कि अलग अलग मैटर इसमें मिक्स हैं, तो इससे आपका हर तरीके का मैटर कवर हो जाता है। तो मैंने बहुत कोशिश की है ऐसा मैटर बनाने की कि आप लोगों की हेल्प हो सके। अब आप लोगों का काम क्या है, इसको अच्छे से लिखना, मिस्टेक्स निकालिए, बार बार प्रैक्टिस कीजिए। जितना ज़्यादा प्रैक्टिस करेंगे, रीडिंग बहुत ज़्यादा कीजिए, रीडिंग करेंगे उतने इंप्रूवमेंट शॉर्टहैंड में आपकी हो जाएगा। इससे बड़ा काम आपका क्या है कि आपको इसे फैलाना है वीडियो को। अगर और वीडियो आप लोगों को चाहिए तो मेरे को इस पर रिस्पॉन्स तगड़ा चाहिए। अगर इस पर मुझे रिस्पॉन्स अच्छा नहीं दिखेगा, मैं डिक्टेशंस अपलोड इस तरीके का एफर्ट नहीं दूंगा। 30 मिनट्स की रिकॉर्डिंग वाली वीडियोस में नहीं लेके आऊँगा। चाहता तो मैं इस तरीके को दिन की एक एक डिक्टेशन अपलोड करके 3 दिन में मैं अपलोड कर सकता था 3 डिक्टेशन, लेकिन मेरा मोटिव ये है कि आप लोगों की ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हेल्प हो सके, आप लोग बाकियों से अलग बन सकें। तो आपके जितने ग्रुप्स हैं, व्हाट्सअप वगैरह ग्रुप जो आपने बनाए हैं, ज्वाइन किए हुए हैं, वहाँ इनको फैलाओ वीडियो को। वीडियो के नीचे लाइक्स आने चाहिए और शेयर होनी चाहिए, दैट्स इट। ठीक है, तो जैसा रिस्पॉन्स आएगा उसके हिसाब से आपको आगे और डिक्टेशंस ऐसी मिल जाएंगी, ऐसी मैं कोशिश करूंगा पूरी। तो आपसे मुलाकात करूंगा अगली क्लास में अगली ट्रांसक्रिप्शन के साथ। तब तक के लिए बाय बाय, टेक केयर।